Cara back. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today I am using my Canson Art Book 1 journal, and this image is from Collage Soup. I do buy the books as ebooks just to basically save postage to Morocco. It's quite expensive from the UK. So yeah, I print these books as ebooks, so that's why it looks like it's on an individual sheet of paper. These little excuse me. These little background pieces are also from a printed Collage Soup image or images. If I cut around like I have just now, I tend to save the background pieces because they do make great collage fodder. These, I believe, are from the free Alice in Wonderland printable that I used on a previous page. So I've just got some nice little background bits to put in that kind of match with my image. So if you haven't checked out Collage Soup, please do. They're online and you can either download the ebooks or you can order the books from Amazon and they print them for you. Now I'm just using some old book page, again, just to create a little bit more interest in that background before I start laying down some paint on top. Just a few bits, just to give it some texture. And I do love a bit of text in my background, so that's why I like book pages. So now I just stick everything down with my glue stick, trying to decide where that butterfly goes, even though it will more than likely be covered up. But there we go. There is some gesso that I've just popped out onto my palette, and I will smear it, smudge it, just using my finger around the edges of those collage fodder bits. I find that this helps them sort of not disappear into the background, but blend in with the background before I put my paint on, just to kind of lose those edges of the paper. I don't like to see the edges if I can help it. So I just find that this does help before I put my paint on just to help them sort of blend in a little bit. I've also gone a little bit over the image, the main focal point image, again, just to knock some of that blackness and darkness back from that image. And now I am just mixing up the colours that I want. My paints are Faber Castel acrylics. I use yellow ochre, cadmium yellow and warm grey in this, but I do mix each of those colours with that gesso. So these are not the colours from the tubes, these are kind of created by me. So I love using my fingers. I love to smudge the paint around, so quite often you'll see me sort of finger painting like this. So I'm just adding those colours into my backgrounds just to try and bring it all together. So the first colour was the yellow ochre, obviously mixed with the white gesso, and then this one I'm going in with now is the cadmium yellow. I kind of got the colours from the background pieces, just try to sort of emulate those in my own way, and I just continue smearing those and adding a bit of the gesso on its own, so just some white, just to sort of help balance that background a little bit. As you can see, I've gone all the way around the face, apart from the kind of neck and the face, to try and help those pop out from my page. I didn't want to cut the whole face out because I did love the background in that image. And here I am with the warm grey. Again, I've added some gesso to that, kind of smudging the face out. I wanted it to look as if her face had been sort of pulled from the page and that her face was smeared. I'm not sure I got that across really, but I am happy with it. So that's why the kind of grey smeary paint at that edge there, I kind of wanted the dragged look. And then I just add some of that grey onto the other side of the page, just so it's not all grey on one side. As I said before, you need that flow in your pages. Here I am just drying that off a bit with my hairdryer. This hairdryer is quite hot. I have to be very wary of it. Then I grab this stencil from Darkroom Door, and I am thinking that I put it in the background. I'm getting the same colours out again. So, and again, mixing them with the white. So this time I'm going to pop this on with a brush. Then I'm going to do some reductive stenciling. So this is not the darkroom door stencil. This is actually a stencil by Tim Holtz, Stampers Anonymous stencil, THMM181. I will list all of this in the description box below. Every product I use, I'll pop in the description box. Feel free to look if there's something that you feel you want. But any page I create, you could recreate with stuff you have at home. If you obviously want to buy stuff, that's great. But I'm a great advocate of using what you have. So just, you know, use what you have. It doesn't have to be the same kind of stencil even. So that stencil you just saw me use with the lighter yellow, I call it Bricks. It's a cheap stencil I got whilst in America from, I think, Joann's. They came on like a ring. It might have been Michael's, I'm not sure. But this is the darkroom door stencil. I'm using white gesso through that just to give a bit of text in my background, a little bit more of interest. I do love a bit of text in my background. And these stencils from darkroom door, I have 3 of them. This one starts with the word journey, I believe, but I have one that's like all art sayings or words and one that's all happy sort of smiley sayings. Again, I'll put the code in the description. I'm not sure off the top of my head which one it is. So now I've just got a bit of plastic wrap from some packaging. And what you see me do there is pop down some masking tape. I'm going to make my own washi tape using the colours that I've used in the background. So I'm mixing up my paint and I'm just smearing them across each piece of masking tape with a sponge, and then I dry them off. And then what I'll do is I'll add to that some of the same patterns that are in the background of my painting and make my own washi tape. This way it contributes to my page and has, you know, the same colours. It blends very well. It's not, you know, it's quite often if you're looking for a washi tape, you can't find one that kind of fits. You kind of pop one on that you think's okay, but it doesn't really work. Anyway, what I've done now is add some line work using just an old store card dipped in my grey paint. And I've added that to the background. And also, as you can see, I've added it to some of that washi tape that I'm making, just to keep those patterns flowing throughout the theme of my page. Now I am mixing up a little bit of a darker grey, so I've added a little bit of black to my grey, and I'm going back in with that same Tim Holtz stencil, just the other end of it. I love these little dots. I do love a circle. Text and circles, you find those on most of my pages. So yeah, I'm just adding some more stenciling to the background, and then because I've got some paint on my palette, I water it down, cover up my little lady's face, and add some dark grey splatter to that as well. Now I quite like the rolling it off there that I did with the tissue paper roll, because it does sort of smush the paint into the page a bit more, and sometimes I like that kind of watercoloured look that it gives. So I did that, and I also dried it a little bit just to make sure. There I'm just adding some white pen to the eyes, and here I've just grabbed my scribble sticks from Dina Wakley Media, and I add lime to the iris of the eyes, and I believe that is, it's either ruby or magenta. It's magenta to the lips, just to give her a little bit of a pink lip. I considered giving her pink cheeks, which quite often I do when I've got a face, but I decided against it because I just wanted those lips to kind of pop out. There is no other pink on the page. I thought the lips would stand out nice if I left them that way. Then I just grabbed out a pencil. It's an 8B Staedtler pencil. I think they're called Lumograph pencils. But any pencil would do. I just choose 8B because it's nice and dark and soft, and you know. And then I've got my smudging stick, and I just smudge those lines out. As you can see, it makes them softer, it makes them stand out a bit more. Then I do the same all the way around my page to give it a border. I've kind of left the back of the girl's head because I didn't want to add hair, as I said earlier. I wanted that to look like her face was kind of being pulled from the page or smudged into the page. I'm not sure it works, but I do still like my page. Here I've grabbed some stamps. They're from Tracy Scott, Paper Artsy. They are from the sets the set TS085 is the kind of squiggly pattern that you see. And then I'm using my absolute favourite mini stamp, which I'm actually using here on the washi tape as well, which is TSM01, which is just a load of small, tiny dots. As I said, I do add that to that washi tape as well. And now I'm just cutting off all those little extra bits of paper. Right, so now I grab my washi tape, I just rip it. I don't tend to keep straight edges, so I rip it in half. And I'm just adding it in 3 spots on my page as a little bit of extra texture. As you can see, I lift up if I want the yellow under the orange one and vice versa. So just in 3 places on my page, and then I grab this quote. Now this quote is from a printable that I've had for a long time. And as I've been printing more, I found this again and pulled it out. I then put on what I'd already sort of pre-drawn out on a piece of paper just to make sure I get the spacing right, the word strength. And then I just kind of make sure I've got my spacing roughly where I want it. Then I've gone in and drawn the word on myself. As I said, I've been practicing with some hand lettering, and even with that practice sheet I can still see that I didn't quite get that lined up as I would have wanted. But hey, it's just my journal, so it's fine. And then as you can see, I'm also just using that piece of paper so that I don't smudge what I've just done, and adding some more lettering at the top. Just went with kind of 2 different styles. This at the top is just my handwriting really, and I'm just putting little tags on the top and bottoms of the letters. Whereas the writing, obviously, that says strength is a little bit more funky, if you like, a little bit more interesting. And I just handwrite that on. Then I grab my white quote that I've already cut out, and I just outline it using my Posca pen so that it's got that nice little black edge. Sometimes I do this with some ink, but I had the Posca pen in my hand, so I figured I'd do it with that. And then when I'm happy with where I want those, I just stick them on with my glue stick. So as I'm looking at that, I decide that I want something else. So I've grabbed out the black paint, and I decide to make that edge that I did with the pencil a little bit darker. So I just grab a sponge and I'm sponging around the edge with that black, because the words are very, very black compared to everything else on the page. So I just felt I needed something else in that black to make that kind of pop. And then I do a few little dots around the page again, because the Posca's in my hand. Now you can see I've got the black paint. I'm just going to water that down, add a little bit of splatter with my splatter brush to the top, and then just dab up where there's a couple of sort of those bigger watery splats that I don't really want. Now I'm drying that off, and again with my tissue just taking up the excess water. Now I'm activating my pen again. This is a Posca. I'm just adding a little bit of highlight to those letters just to help that stand out a little bit more from the page. So just some little white lines, little dots, and then on the smaller letters I just go around the outside as like a kind of drop shadow. So kind of the opposite of what I've done on the word strength, but it just helps those stand out from that page. So there I am finished. I'll do a few close-ups for you. But if you've liked this page, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing. It really does help my channel to grow, and I hope to see you again next time. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next Friday at 5 for your Friday Art Escape. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye bye for now.